If they got $100, they can go ahead and get a ground floor account and start investing in real estate. If you start with $100, they'll match it with $100 as well. So they'll give you $200. So whereas you would receive around about 8% return on that. So it's some things that you can do. It's not a lot of money. At least it's a start.
All right, that's it, you guys. Episode's over. You've been watching Financial State of Minds. This is your host, Darrin. We still got like 50 minutes, huh? Crap. Okay, let's keep the episode going.
So money is all I think of. Money on my mind, 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 so money is all I think of.
Alrighty. Money is on my mind indeed. Yes. Ooh, it's good to be back. This is Financial State of Minds, and I am your gracious host, Darrin Harvey, and this is a show where I help you get to that bag, manage that bag, and grow that bag as best as possible as we discuss financial and business literacy and anything and everything to do with the power of the dollar. And this is the first episode being recorded in the brand new year of 2026. So, of course, I have to ask the unofficial co-host, who might as well just be the official at this point, but the unofficial co-host of Financial State of Minds is back with us as well. Maurice Shabazz is back in the building. How you doing today?
Doing good, brother, man. Ready for this 2026. Ready to tear some ish up. See, I didn't say it this time.
Yes. All right. Yep. We're going to keep it clean. We're going to keep it professional now. We're going to get to this bag in 2026 just as we did in 2025. So, speaking of that, topic for the day is you're listening to KGPC 96.9 FM, streaming right now on KGPC969.org. That's the topic. No, that's the station that you're listening to this episode on. Topic today is going to be how to invest when you're broke. How and where or why and how to invest when you ain't got no cheddar, no scratch, no cheese, no bread, but you still want to invest. So, this is a question that I'm sure, Shabazz, you get it too, but I constantly get this question. Okay, Darrin, I got insert amount of money that's, let's say, 3 figures or less. So, Darrin, I got $50. Darrin, I got $100. Darrin, I got $5. Darrin, I got $20. Darrin, I got $500 was the question a couple of weeks ago. I want to invest into insert asset class. So, real estate, stocks, whatever. How do I invest when I'm broke? So, in 2026, that is still something that I'm getting asked constantly. Now, what do I normally tell people? Or I won't even answer this first. Shabazz, I would like you to answer this. When someone runs up to you, one of your people's run up to you, be like, brother, I got $100. I want to invest. What do you tell them?
I would tell them, get you an Acorns account, get you a stash account, get you something where you could basically get some kind of return on that. I mean, there's several different things that you could put, and you could start, with just minimal, right? Acorns, they don't really ask you for initial investment, but in some cases, they start you off with $5. So put it in there and just, let it actually gain some kind of return. It may not be much because it's only $100, right? But I tell everybody, go ahead and get an Acorns account. There's another one similar to Acorns. They could actually, if they got $100, they can go ahead and get a ground floor account and start investing in real estate and ground floor. If you start with $100, they'll match it and they'll with $100 as well. So they'll give you $200. So whereas you would receive around about 8% return on that. So it's some things that you can do. It's not a lot of money, but at least it's a start.
All right, that's it, you guys. Episode's over. You've been watching Financial State of Minds. This is your host, Darrin. We still got like 50 minutes, huh? Crap. Okay, let's keep the episode going. All right, Shabazz, for the 2 people on this planet who doesn't know what Acorns and what Ground Floor is, can you explain what those platforms are?
So Acorns is a mobile app that basically where they will invest your funds into various areas of the stock market. They might put a portion into stocks, bonds, indexes, stock, just different various areas. And it depends. You have the option to do low risk, medium, or high risk, right? Of course, higher the risk, but higher the reward. So I usually tell people to do moderate. Just get right in the middle of low and high. I think that's just a good place for a novice investor, somebody who doesn't really have the experience, right? They have another one. I can't think of the name of it. It's similar to Acorns, but you could do the same thing. And then you have other areas where you can actually use it, like Stash. Stash is another good one. It's another one I'm thinking about. So they have Stash. And then you got some of the other apps like Robinhood, Beanstocks, but those require more manual. They'll give you stocks, and they'll give you different areas of market that they'll recommend, but it requires more manual. But if you want something that's kind of already figured out for you, then Acorns is probably the way to go.
Got it. And what is Ground Floor?
Ground Floor is a real estate investing platform where you can get started for a minimum of $10. I believe if you do a $50 to $100 investment initially, they'll match it upon signing up, which is great. I mean, gives you some extra investment power just starting out. I mean, who doesn't want an extra $50 or $100, right?
Right.
So, yeah, and they invest in several different areas of real estate. So these are called REITs, and you actually can, on their platform, you can pick. They even have some scenarios where they're higher than 8% return, but they have a whole list of different options to invest in. And they'll show different properties and all the numbers and everything. And so you can actually, if you really want to, you can pick and choose what areas you want to spread your money around.
Got it. Okay. So, yeah, those are all options, you guys. If you is broke, you ain't got no money, or you got very little money to spare and you're trying to invest, those are the two options. Those are the two options I would recommend actually myself. But before we explore further, let's pull back a little bit. And I have to do this because I want to sound like a broken record. I will continue to sound like a broken record. Let's talk about the requirements in order to invest. If you're asking me as your advisor, people are coming to me, hey, Darrin, I want to invest $50 into oil or whatever. That's literally something I got asked like a couple of weeks ago. I got a couple of bucks. Let's invest into oil. Oh, boy. Okay. So you want to invest, listener, but you're broke. So the first thing I ask anybody now, this is people who just run up to me and say, hey, Darrin, where should I invest? First thing I ask is two questions. Are you out of debt? And do you have an emergency fund or any type of savings? If either one of those two are a no, I don't give any investment advice. It just stops right there. The reason why it is because there are very few investments, and I want to say flat out, there are no safe, low-risk, moderate ways of investing that would beat the interest of a credit card for sure. And there's no very risky way of investing that wouldn't beat credit cards, and even I would even say something like a car loan or a personal debt consolidation loan, or most debts that are not probably mortgages. That's the only exception, or maybe even student loans. Those are the two exceptions. And the reason why is that most mortgages are pretty much all of them in the last, 40 years are single-digit interest rates. And student loans, especially if you get them federally, tend to be single digits. Now, you can have some private student loans that are in double-digit interest rates. And if they are, they're in the teens somewhere, low teens. But especially federal student loans and mortgage, they tend to be single digits. Car loans can also be single digits if you have a solid credit score and or your car is, old. If you don't fall into those buckets, I wouldn't invest, because your investment, unless it's literally cryptocurrency or something, I would say relatively risky, it's not going to beat those odds. So that's why you want to clear out your debt first. And then second is you want to have a savings account, or what I would call an emergency fund. And for those who don't know, an emergency fund is when you have expenses of 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. So that means if you lose your job, and it normally takes somebody up to 6 months to get a job, maybe a little bit longer in this job climate, you will have money covered and saved, so you're not scrambling, taking out shark loans or asking your friends and family to borrow money for rent and stuff like that. That's the point of the emergency fund, number one. Second point of emergency fund is, well, we all experience financial emergencies. It doesn't matter what wealth class you land in, you will experience an emergency financially, 100% guaranteed in your lifetime. This is part of being an adult. So instead of you, again, going to your favorite shark loan or pulling out your favorite Bank of America or Chase or Citi or whatever credit card, and that be your emergency fund, which would put you back in debt, you want to use your emergency fund or your savings to clear out that medical emergency, or maybe your child has to go on a field trip for school, or just something, whatever that's unexpected. So those are the two things that I ask and will figure out if somebody has before I give them any investment advice. So if you don't have those two, pretty much all of this advice at this point in this episode, you're not there yet. Please listen to the episodes where me and Shabazz have sit down and literally made complete guides on getting out of debt, credit. There's so many episodes in Financial State of Minds that will help you and support you in getting yourself out of debt, especially credit card debt. Okay, that disclaimer is out of the way. Okay, so back to the actual topic, investing if you're broke. So like Shabazz said, Acorns, Ground Floor are great options. What I want to talk about before the actual platform or what we do is how much money do you actually have to invest? So people run up to me and be like, hey, Darrin, I only got $1 a day to invest, $5 a day to invest, $100 a month to invest, $50 a month to invest. The first thing I'm going to question is, especially if you're out of debt and you have an emergency fund, do you really only have $50 extra? Do you really have only $1 a day, $5 a day extra to invest? I'm going to ask you guys to look at your budgets, which you should have. You should have a budget. You should know how much money you're making, how much money you're spending. Look at that first and see if we can cut out some of these wants. So again, this goes back to you're going out to eat, your Starbucks, maybe you're going to concerts, you're going to see sporting events, music concerts, you like buying purses, you like buying Jordans, whatever you like to do that you want that you don't need. I would say let's look at your budget first and see where we can make cuts or save money so we can invest more than just $1 a day, $5 a day, $10 a day, $50 a month, $100 a month, whatever number you think is low, whatever that is. Let's figure out if we can make that higher, because usually, especially if you're in the space of debt freeness and you have savings, you probably can invest more than just $100 a month. So that's the first thing. Cut some stuff out. So now it's $200 a month, $300 a month, $500 a month. Because just bluntly, yes, it's great to invest $50 a month, $100 a month, but it's not a lot of money. It really isn't. It's great to start. It's great to have something, but it's not a lot of money. So let's find a way or have that discussion or have that self-reflection moment of, can we invest more? Whether that is cutting out your wants or maybe getting a side hustle or getting a second job or something like that so you can invest more. That's the first thing I'm going to have before I actually recommend stuff, because I would like to tell people, yeah, go invest in the S&P 500, but the S&P 500, last time I checked, requires a minimum of $200. So I want you to be at least $200, because that's what I tend to like to advise, is that. So that's where I will stop. How do you feel about all of that?
I think that's on point, man. So just to elaborate on the S&P 500, so basically that's the top 500 companies in the United States. So if you can invest $200 in the index, guess what? You actually have a part in that. And just think about that for a minute. The top 500 companies, I actually have an investment in there. And it is highly unlikely that the top 500 companies will fail, right? Or that index will go to zero. That's totally highly unlikely. And if you look at where it's been trading over the last year, last 5 years, last 10 years, you'll actually see that. So that's actually on point. That's actually a really good investment right there, to be honest with you, to invest in a whole index. And there's other things that people could do, man. Like you said, look at their budget. I mean, if anybody is on a laptop or a desktop and they have Excel, they have an actual budget spreadsheet. And if you could go ahead and just start putting things in there, just putting all your expenses in there, and then you could actually seeing all your finances on the spreadsheet, let me tell you, it is probably one of the best things that you can do. Because when you see where all your money is going, and then you can easily see what you can cut out. A lot of people say, oh, I looked at my budget and stuff like that, but a lot of people really don't look at their budget and seeing what they can cut out. And then there's other things that you can add to it. I tell people all the time, okay, you don't have any money to invest. The thing is that there's things that you can do to actually bring in funds. And there's a few people that actually I know personally that have disciplined themselves to do so. Like, you got some people who basically drink a lot of bottled water. If you recycle religiously, and let's say every penny, every dollar that you got from recycling, you actually invested that money, and you do that for a year and see how much that grows. And you just invested in the various places, invested into Acorns, invested into Ground Floor and the S&P 500. And you just looked at it a year later and just see how much your money has worked for you, not worked for the money, how much your money has worked for you. And this is not money that necessarily came out your pocket. This is just from you just saving and investing and just being disciplined and focusing and just seeing what that did for you. That would definitely motivate you to do more.
Absolutely. And you actually beat me to the punch, and I'll follow up with you. That would be my strategy, actually. So if, again, I'm that person who just got out of debt, they just finished up their emergency funds, but let's just say they truly only have $100 a month. That's just all they can do. Maybe this first year, they just started a new job, they're trying to get promoted, but they need that year or two, right? Okay, that's great. Let's invest in Acorn. Let's invest in Ground Floor, those little platforms that you can throw in literally pennies or dollars, a few dollars here and there a month. Okay, there's no problem with that. Do that for the first month and two, and then as that grows, you can actually move that investment into something like an S&P 500 or something like a U.S. total stock market index fund or high yield dividends index funds, and then it will grow from there. It will compound. The important thing that I've learned from investing myself is as soon as you start, you get the compound effect happening. So you want to start as soon as possible so things can compound and grow over time, and then you just move it over. So that's definitely a strategy that I would encourage if people are just starting out. But like you said earlier, definitely have a place where you can look at your budget and be like, is this really what I can invest? Like I said earlier, is this really all I can do? Is all I can do really $50? If that really is it, $50 a month, that's all you can do, I can't really think of a few other options. The only other options, and I know people don't consider this investing, but it is investing, is, of course, having your money in a high-yield savings account. I think right now the market is giving, the highest I've seen right now is a 3.5, give or take around there, or maybe a CD account, which will give you a little bit higher, maybe a 4. I haven't looked at them in a while, but I would guess they're probably around a 4%. And that technically is investing short term. CDs can go for a year. CDs can go for 6 months. Something short like that, you can put your money in and guarantee results right there. So those are a couple other options I can think of where it doesn't require a lot of money. I think I've seen CDs that only ask for about $500. Like $500 is all you need. $300 is all you need. I don't think I've seen a CD that requires thousands and thousands of dollars to start with. So if you're somebody who, hey, I just got $500 because of ABC reason, you can invest that money into a CD and it will grow 4% at the time of this recording, and then you can make some guaranteed money that way. So I'm trying to think of other ways. I'm trying to keep the number at 3 figures. But you know what? I just out of a good scenario that everybody's about to experience because it is January, mid-January at the time of this recording. Tax season's coming up. So Shabazz, I'm sure you've gotten this a lot. Hey, I got my tax return or I just did my taxes and I'm expecting $1,000 in return or $500 or $1,500 or something like that. There's a decent sized lump sum. Hey, Shabazz, I got this money. Where should I invest it? What are you telling them?
But at the same time, what is the goal here? Because, you have some people who actually may want to start a business, right? Or they may already be an entrepreneur. They just have a good idea. I'll give you a scenario of a client that I'm working with. So basically, she ran into a lump sum of money that I helped her acquire. And she was like, she has a truck that's been sitting and registration needs to be paid. It's a commercial truck, right? It's a rig. And she's like, I have to get it off the ground. It's going to cost thousands of dollars and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. What should I do now that I have this money? And I told her, I said, if it were me, I would go ahead and I would pay off all my personal credit cards, pay them down to zero, because that's going to give you some leverage and that's going to boost your credit score back up. Mm-hmm. Start the LLC or the corporation. Now that your credit score back up, guess what? You're a good candidate to be a personal guarantor now, right? With that being said, now we can go get up to 100,000 or more into business credit cards that have a 0% introductory rate for the first 12 to 18 months. Now you have more capital to where now you can go ahead and get that trucking business off the ground, pay the registration, pay all the fees and stuff like that. And this is a scenario that anybody can do. I spoke in front of a crowd last night and I was telling them the same thing because everybody said, well, it costs money to do that, but it costs money to do that. One of the biggest investments that you can do is your personal credit, right? By investing into your personal credit, you can actually use that as a tool to actually acquire more capital on the business side. It's not, and this is for startups. This is not for people, for companies that already have revenue, that have been in business for years. This is for a company that you could start today. I know just from my experience that people don't utilize credit the way they should. They look at credit as something that, oh, I got some extra money that I can pay for this, or I could buy this thing that I always wanted, or basically just being a regular consumer, right? And instead of just making, and I keep trying to reprogram the mindset. And when I talk to people, because when I talk to this crowd, I asked them last night, and Cash was there, she's my witness. And I said, what is the purpose of credit? I said, it's only one answer. And it's okay to say, I don't know. And everybody was there, to buy stuff, to finance stuff, to do this. They said all these answers except for the right answer. And I said, credit. The only purpose of credit is to make more money. That's it. It's not to finance things you can afford. Its only purpose, and you should use it as a tool to use it to make more money. If you use it in that scenario, you will always come out on top, right?
Absolutely.
And by the time I left, I said, now what is credit for? And they all knew it. It was like, make more money. So it's just that one thing that sticks in your mind when it comes to finance. So some of these things, like I said, they just need to be reprogrammed, rewired. Yep.
And yeah, we're not saying anything different than we haven't probably said already over and over again, but it's so true and people need to hear it again and again. And really, in layman's terms, what you said is, honestly, if you really are somebody who only has, let's just say, $100 or so or less a month to invest, honestly, you need to invest in yourself, ultimately, however that looks. And it could look in so many different ways. The main way I would say is, of course, what Shabazz basically said, start your own business. And there are businesses you can start, including podcasting, that you can start with under $100 overhead. I can break it down to you guys right now. The hosting platform that I use that you guys are able to listen to this podcast on is $30 a month. You can get yourself a little $30 wireless microphone. You can get that. and you can use that to record. You don't need a $500 professional microphone plus that I'm very lucky to be using right now. Thank you, Felicia and KGPC. You don't need that to start with. Absolutely not. Same thing with YouTube. You don't need that. You can start with your phone that you already have. And again, a $30 wireless microphone. And I should have brought it so I can show you guys on camera, but I have one. I actually have two. One that connects to my iPhone and one that connects to my iPad. And then there are two little wireless microphones that you clip on right here, and it's two. So literally I could have gave one to Shabazz, had one right here. Shabazz has seen me do it, literally break out the iPad, and that's just the way I'm recording for the day. And it sounds great, especially with the editing software. And then you can get an editing software like the one I use, Descript, that starts at $30 a month. And you can fully edit the audio and video podcast, honestly. And there you go, under $100 right there. That's a $60 overhead. What your website is called, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, that's going to be your website. What else am I missing? I mean, I guess if you want to go video and go a little step up, you can buy some lights and you can buy some cameras. But like I say, you don't need that to start with. You can just use your phone to start with. Just make sure you have access to a quiet, well-lit area, and that's all you need to start content creation. That's all you need. So that's what I would do first, is invest in yourself, invest in a way that you can earn some more money, or maybe get again, not pushing always the entrepreneur route, but say, hey, I don't want to start my own business, Darrin. Well, invest in something that will allow you to make more money in W-2 life. Invest in something, a certification or something like that, where you can ask for $5,000 extra a year or $10,000 extra a year from your employer because you got a certain skill set. So investing in yourself. And lastly, just education, just overall education. It doesn't have to be college. It can be online classes. It can be apps like the school app where you can just learn different things and you're just paying for education. That's going to work. That's guaranteed. And invest in yourself to develop skills so you can earn more money, so you have more money to invest. That's another option that is a form of investing, is investing in yourself so you can grow as an individual and gain more skills. So I just want to put that out there as well. And just to remind the listeners, you are listening to Darrin Harvey and Maurice Shabazz over here on KGPC 96.9 FM. This is Financial State of Mind. So we're talking about how to invest if you're broke, how to invest if you, let's say, only got 3 figures to work with on a monthly basis. So, Shabazz, I know you're big into investing in yourself. What other ways can people invest into themselves?
Well, I always tell people, you are your biggest asset, right? And by investing in yourself, it's investing in your future, right? Because one of the things is that people invest their money into a lot of things, consciously or subconsciously. And one of the things is to recognize and be conscious of is, what am I putting my money into? And is it actually bringing me a return? Is it sustaining my growth and my stability and future-wise? And when you ask yourself those questions, a lot of times, in most cases, being from the lack of financial education and awareness, more times it's taken away, right? It's not going to sustain any kind of growth. And I think what it comes down to is not only investing in yourself, but the discipline of it, right?
Right.
It's consciously knowing that I need to constantly invest in myself for the betterment of the future of yourself, the future of your children, your family. A lot of people have children, and a lot of times, and this is a big part of the problem, is that this generation has not, and I looked at the numbers, they have not, especially when it comes to black people, have not looked down the road for the generations to come. A lot of our people came, like we're here in California. Mm-hmm. A lot of our people have came here from the South,
right?
Migrated here from the South, right? And when they migrated here, they got real estate for relatively cheap when they came down here, and they acquired a lot of real estate. And what happened was we had this era in the 80s and the 90s where those elders had passed on and they had left inheritance to a lot of our people here in California. What happened is that these homes and this real estate and this wealth, it was there. And they either let it go for lack of paying taxes, or they just sold it off. And that's where a lot of the gentrification and everything came in. So now we're in a position, you see more so in a position where if they were to die today or tomorrow or whatever, they have nothing to basically pass on to the next generation. And what happens is that majority of the wealth, if you look at the numbers, a good percentage of it, probably over 50%, are inheritance.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're not leaving anything for anybody to inherit, then basically that's the future. That's the future pretty much of everything that you have done in your lifetime, right? And I don't think a lot of us have thought about that. A lot of us don't have whole life insurance policies. A lot of us don't have real estate. And what happens is basically it's going to be a renter's nation. And who are going to be the renters? Relatively, we're going to be a good portion of that, right? Even as minorities. So I can't stress enough of how you need to invest in yourself. Invest. You can't invest enough, as far as I'm concerned, and you need to be spreading that investment around. And I'm just going to be honest. You can invest. Some people are sitting around and they actually have pensions. They have 401ks. I'm here to tell you, you can invest your money way better than any Roth could ever invest your money.
That's true.
Because Roth, these 401k plans and stuff like that, they're not going to beat inflation. They're not going to beat taxes when it comes down to it. So if you really look at it like, hey, if I leave this money right here, what is it going to do over the next 10 or 20 years? And then you have another scenario. If I invest a portion in the S&P 500, if I invest some in real estate, if I invest some in here and over there, what would be my potential return over time versus your potential with just leaving it in a 401k? You'll see a big difference, right? Mm-hmm. Invested in insurance, of course, right? But if you invested in all these different various places, you'll see a better outcome. Because I'm going to tell you right now, these 401k plans are not going to beat inflation and taxes, and that's just a fact. I'm not just saying that. That's a fact. So invest. You cannot invest enough. Get into investing. Do some research. It's so much information out there. You could pretty much ask ChatGPT with a free account, what are the best scenarios?
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing you mentioned something I totally forgot about it, so I want to expand upon it, is most people already have some form of investing, and that's their retirement account. That's their 401, that's their 403B, that's their Roth IRA, stuff like that. So I do want to correct you. You could potentially get solid returns on your 401 or 403B, not directly. So not a 401 or 403B on its own. It's pretty hard to beat it compared to a S&P 500. But if they do offer a match, and that I will say, I know we talked about Acorns earlier. We talked about Ground Floor. We talked about S&P earlier. But I will say for sure, if your company is offering a match, there's nothing better than that. There's almost nothing better than that. That's 100% return on investment. And there's very few things that are 100% return on investment. And I can't think of any that are 100% return on investment that are guaranteed other than your employer doing a match. So that's the first thing I just would assume. I'm sure listeners know this, but I want to make that clear. If you have a 401k or a 403b that offers any percentage match, I don't care if it's 1%, I've heard as high as like 8%. Please put as much money there first. I just want to make that clear for you guys if you aren't doing it already. Please put that money in there first. That's a guaranteed 100%. And if that 100% takes up your whole investment of $100 a month, $200 a month, $50 a month, then that's fine. That's all you need to do, because you're not going to beat that with anything else we will be discussing. But that is investing. A lot of people forget that. You putting money away in your 401 or your 403b is a form of investing. Now, what a lot of people don't do, so listeners, I guarantee you, most of you listening right now don't do this. please go to your 401 or 403B right now or after this episode. You can listen, you can multicast, listen, I'm sure you can, and make sure that the way it's set up is proper so you can get the best returns and the best gains for your situation. Because by default, it tends to be on the lowest risk. And for a lot of you guys, that may work out, but I would say for even more of you guys, you can afford to be a little bit more risky. You can afford to do a moderate, or you can afford to do an aggressive. Especially in those 401ks or the 403bs, their idea of moderate and their idea of aggressive isn't really that risky. So if you haven't, that's the first thing you need to do is check that, log in, do your password resets if you've forgotten already, or reach out to your HR and make sure that, one, you are taking advantage of your company's 401k or 403b. And if they're offering a match, absolutely put into that. And check the settings. Some of those do offer the S&P 500. You can do it. You could do it within your retirement account. And go ahead and take advantage of that, because S&P 500, the last 3-4 years has been double digits. It's been on a tear. I'm not promising it's going to be 10% plus every single year moving forward. Do not expect that. But data shows in the last 100 years, it has averaged 8 to 12%. Especially if you reinvest, it is basically averaging 12% over the last 100 years. So listeners, please check your retirement accounts, your retirement vehicles, and make sure that you are optimizing them. And to extend that further, make sure that you've been rolling over your 401 and your 403bs from previous employers. I forgot some statistic, but I think it's like a good chunk, like 20-30% of 401ks or 403bs, they don't get rolled over from previous employers. So they're just stuck there. And you don't even have access to it. You don't know what's going on to it. There's no awareness. And then especially when people end up passing away, it just becomes this headache and this time suck of figuring out where assets are or retirement funds are when it comes to your your previous employer's 401ks and your 403bs. So if you haven't done that already, please do all of that. I know that's more on the retirement spectrum, but retirement accounts are investing. They are the easiest way to invest, and they are the only ways where if a company does offer a match, that is a guaranteed 100% return on your investment. So definitely wanted to make sure we talk about that. So let's just kind of move forward. So those are, like I said, primarily the ways you can invest when you have, let's just say, $200 or less a month. Those are the ways. I think we've covered everything. But I do want to move on and say, okay, you've done that. You followed our advice. You've done one of those methods. It doesn't matter. By year 2 or 3, whether you moved up in your career or whether you just compound the investment, you can invest more. Let's just be honest. You're going to be able to invest more than $100 or $200 a month. So let's move away from the investing while you're broke, because you're no longer broke after doing this from a year to 5 years. And let's talk about a few ways you can invest now you've been doing it for 5 years. So Shabazz, someone's been doing it for 5 years. They have more than $100 a month to invest. Let's just say they got $1,000 to invest. They can do a little bit some stuff more than just the S&P or what we've talked about. What other ways can people invest now that they have more money?
I would recommend getting more aggressive, because as time goes on, we get older. Time is always a value. And I don't think people even factor in the time value. Like somebody who is between 18 and 20, they have more time, essentially, to do more low-risk investments, right? And it's their age range of 30 to 45. That should be more moderate. And then 45 and up, you should be a lot more aggressive, because the time value. You don't have 10, 15, and 20 years to buy and hold, right? I mean, you may, but I mean, the uncertainty of that, right? So, you should be getting more aggressive as you, in the beginning, low to moderate, I get it, but as time goes on, you've been investing for like 5 years, like as you mentioned, you should be getting more aggressive, because the more aggressive that you get, the higher the risk, the higher reward. And I try to explain that to people, and then people get it. I've seen people who haven't done this consistently over the years, and they're 50 or close to 50, or they even past 50, and they're like, I have to be more aggressive, because I don't have that amount of time, right? So I really urge people to, at that point, if you've been investing for 5 years, you should get with, if you actually have an insurance policy, see what you can do to increase it. Hey, if I put in more money, and do the numbers with your insurance broker, and basically they'll let you know the scenarios. Hey, if you could put in, add $200 more a month or $300 more a month, then yeah, this will be your outcome. This is the amount of compound interest you will incur in the next few years or 5 years or so, right? And even if you're investing into the stock market, you're investing in crypto or whatever it is, get more aggressive. See where it's been trading at whatever you're investing in for the last year, the last 5 years, the last 10 years, and get an average of the amount of return they did over time. Have to get a little analytical. I mean, there's a lot of different tools out there to see exactly what is the potential. I would get deeper into it. You have tools where you can just kind of put money into and you just let it do its own thing. But as time goes on, you need to start getting more into it to where you're actually doing your own trades. You're actually doing your own investing. You're actually picking and choosing where you want to invest instead of just depending on this model to do it for you over time. And I tell people, educate yourself about investing. In the beginning, I understand people, they just never did it. They don't really know. It's all Chinese to you. But at 5 years, you should have a better idea about investing and how it works. Like I said, over time, I believe you should be getting more aggressive.
Absolutely, I agree. Yeah, I would even say if you're at the 3-year mark, you can start being a little bit more aggressive when it comes to investing. So I would just say this, instead of just repeating myself to death, me and Shabazz both sat down and made 2 back-to-back episodes called Investing for Beginners, Part 1 and Part 2. So I would say if you've been investing, first off, if you have no idea literally how to invest and you need a breakdown of every vehicle of investing possible, please listen to those 2 previous episodes. We don't have time to just talk about it again, but please listen to those 2 previous episodes that are called Investing for Beginners and Investing for Beginners Part 2. And we break down pretty much 2 hours of every way you can invest. So if you've been investing in Acorns, you've been investing in ground floor, maybe you've only been investing in your retirement accounts and that's it, and you've just been doing that for 5 years and you've worked your way up the career, you're earning 20, 30, 40, maybe 50K plus more a year, and you just have those funds, you have that $500, $1,000, $2,000 a month to invest, please check out those episodes, and they're going to teach you pretty much everything about investing that you're going to need to know for a beginner. Of course, another option is, especially if you have that type of money, you can hire a wealth manager, and they can do it for you. Of course, they're going to take a cut, but that's a great way to learn from somebody who is doing it and who's doing it to a point where they're successful and they have a business about it, is being willing to pay for coaching or paying for consulting around investing or around money growth in general. There's nothing wrong with that. I've definitely paid for investing in myself through education, through financial education. So there's nothing wrong with doing that and learning more, and then just getting around the right people, having those discussions with people who have more money, because most people, you guys, who have a net worth of hundreds of thousands of dollars, positive, debt-free, clear, they probably know a little bit about investing, or if they don't, they know somebody who does because they're doing it for them. So just getting around the right crowd is going to help you learn how to invest. But kind of going back to just the direct question, once you've been doing it for a few years, just invest in a little bit more risky assets. Like Shabazz was saying, we can talk about gold. We can talk about silver now. We can talk about crypto now. We can talk about more money into the stock market, more money into riskier stocks, or we can talk about other forms of investing. But again, please go check out those previous episodes. We broke it down for 2 episodes, nearly 2 hours of content right there. We just don't have the time to break it down here. But I did want to make this episode because it's just something that, as financial advisors, we get that question a lot. People who don't have a lot of money, they start with $50, they start with $25, they start with $100 or whatever, and they want to invest. And it really comes down to what we just talked about. You got Acorns, you got ground floor, you got investing into your employer, your retirement account, you got investing into, the S&P 500 or high yield index funds, any type of index funds. Generally, you can start between $100, $200. There's some that are lower. There's some that are higher. But generally, that's the space that I've found is $100, $200. If you got a month, you can start investing into the index fund. So we'll go ahead and stop it right there because we're running out of time. Shabazz, thank you for joining me as always. Is there any final thoughts you have as we wrap up this episode?
No, man, just simply invest. I cannot stress that enough.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to keep making more content around investing because, well, that's what you guys want to hear, honestly. And two, it's super important. Making money work for you is such an important concept. There's the concept of being your own banker, and that's through insurances, which we've talked about previously as well. But making that money work for you, you're going to end up making more money one day. Maybe not in the first year or the fifth year, but if you do this, especially if you start in your 20s, you start in your 30s, and you have that time advantage, and you do this, there's going to be a day where those investments end up paying out more than what you're making on a yearly basis. Even if you're older and time isn't necessarily your quote-unquote best friend, there's still plenty of people I know who are older than me. They had lots of debt that they got out of debt. They maneuvered in a way where they got out of debt and they were able to start invest heavily, and they still end up being good. So it's not impossible no matter your age, your background, your demographic, whatever. I hope that me standing here and being the disabled guy kind of proves that as well. But you guys, this has been Darrin Harvey and Maurice Shabazz. This has been Financial State of Mind. It's a show where I help you get to the bag, manage the bag, and grow that bag as best as possible. And you've been listening to us on KGPC 96.9 FM, streaming on kgpc969.org and available on all platforms where you can listen to podcasts and stream them up. So thank you guys. And then if you're watching this on YouTube, thank you. Please like, share, and subscribe. Tell all your friends. Yes, please listen to Old Blindie over there, Financial State of Mind. But anyways, you guys, peace, kings, and queens.